are you going? My name is Michaela, this is Meekela Reads, and I read some books and I'm gonna tell you about it. It's that time of the month again. You know how this works, it's a wrap up. We've done this many times before. The first book that I read this month was True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. To be honest, I read this because Kirsty read this and she said it was good. I knew nothing about Ned Kelly going into this book. I still don't know if it's fiction or if it's like based in real things, but it depicts Ned Kelly's letters to his daughter. There is a movie for this as well. I started watching it, we haven't yet finished it. As I said, I kind of actually enjoyed this because I knew nothing about Ned Kelly going into the book, which is like kind of shameful for an Australian. But it was really interesting to see kind of where he came from, and honestly from an unbiased opinion of his antics that happened and what led to him becoming the person that he was in the end. I did sort of lose focus towards the end of the book. I listened to it via audiobook. The start was interesting and then it was really long. I did have the speed quite high and I was listening when I wasn't super into it, so that could have something to do with it, but I did finish it. It was interesting. One of the most interesting things I found about this is that the structure of the book and how it was written. The author actually used a lot of the language that was, I assume, written in like the letters that were there, so phonetically it sounded as though people were talking that way. Good reflection of its time. I'm learning a lot about history this year. Jared's been making me watch like a lot of war movies and like true stories, and I've been reading a lot more non-fiction. This is weird. Who am I becoming? Also, mini existential crisis last night. I found out I have grey hairs. I'm not even 30 yet and we have grey hairs. Is this my transition into adulthood? Is this how I become an adult? I get grey hairs and I start reading non-fiction? Next, I finished another audiobook and it was Gilded by Marissa Meyer. I listened to Gilded. It was the April pick for the We're All Booked book club. I unfortunately didn't get to go to the live stream, but generally my thoughts about it were positive. Gilded is the new book series from Marissa Meyer. Marissa Meyer wrote the Lunar Chronicles. Gilded is a Rumpelstiltskin ? Retelling. Gilded follows the main character Serilda as she kind of gets thrown into this alternate world run and ruled by the Earl King. However, once a month the wild hunt that he heads basically storm all of the towns and they take children and they kidnap people and it's never a good time. However, Serilda gets kind of caught up in this one night and she lies to the Earl King and tells him that she can spin gold out of straw, and so he takes her back to his castle once a month on the night where he's allowed out and asks her to spin gold for him. And obviously she can't do this, so the story kind of follows her as she tries to find a way to not get murdered because of her lie. I actually really enjoyed Gilded. It was very reminiscent of the Lunar Chronicles, which again is another series that I didn't think I would like, but I did. It was super easy to listen to. The story was amazing. I think Marissa Meyer's writing, and I said this about the Lunar Chronicles and I will continue to talk about it, but her writing lends itself really well to audiobooks because they're almost like fairy tales. Like, well, they're based on fairy tales, but the way that they're written is very reminiscent of fairy tales and it's very easy to listen to. The characters were lovable and they were relatable and I really enjoyed them. I think this was the first book in a while that I had read that had decent characters in it. There was an element to this book that was quite brutal and it did not shy away from saving people for the sake of saving people, which I really appreciated. I think that there's not enough of that in YA these days. We need some brutality. We need some unhappy endings. I've had too many happy endings. We need some tragedy just sprinkled in there, and Gilded did that really nicely. I am so excited for the second one. It comes out in late this year, I think. I'm not sure. Very excited for it though. Did not think that I would be anticipating books, but look at me go. Anticipating series. This is what happens when she reads new books. And I actually gave Gilded a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was a book. It was New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. She has a whole reading vlog coming out for this next week. However, I will tell you briefly that I am rereading the Twilight series. If you haven't heard, I mention it in like every single video at this point. The first video is up in that series. Go check it out. I am overly critical about Twilight, and I would actually gander and say that these videos that I'm making are actually more of an in-depth review rather than a reading vlog, but there is some life stuff sprinkled in there, so we're gonna call it a review vlog. There is no shock to know that my rating for this went down. I don't know why I rated it 5 stars the first time, but I did. I was young, I was naive, I had no idea what good books actually were. So stay tuned for that video because it will explain all of my in-depth thoughts about New Moon and whether or not I swapped teams. The last book that I read in April was These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I actually listened to this by audiobook as well. I tried to read this like late last year and then just couldn't get into it, but she listened to it and it was way better. So These Hollow Vows is a fantasy, I'm gonna say like a new adult fiction book. If you enjoyed A Court of Thorns and Roses, I would generally tend to recommend this book. It is loosely related in themes and composition and character arcs and storylines, but These Hollow Vows I actually think is loosely a Cinderella retelling to an extent. Our main character's name is Abriella. She and her sister are living in this world where magicians and mages kind of almost use people like slaves. They have contracts that they are never able to fulfill. And Abriella and her sister are actually in one of these contracts with their like evil stepmother, where they have 2 sisters that they make dresses for. Cinderella, Abriella. That's purely the basis that I have that this is a Cinderella retelling. Abriella has this uncanny ability to be able to kind of blend in, sneak around. She is an amazing thief. In this world, there is also fairies and fae, and they are seen as kind of evil, both the Seelie and the Unseelie courts. However, the story kicks off when Abriella's sister is taken and sold to the Unseelie king, and this is happening kind of on the eve of the Seelie queen throwing a ball for her son because he needs a wife to marry who is a human girl because the Seelie can't have children. So Abriella has to go across to the Seelie lands to save her sister, and that's kind of where this story kicks off. If you like love triangles, you will like this. If you like morally grey characters, you will like this. If you like the like shining knight in white armor, you might like this. I'm someone who prefers a morally grey character, and that was like my one downfall for this book, is that there wasn't enough the morally grey character in it, but I have a suspicion that that might be book 2. Some criticisms for this one: I feel like the characters weren't as deep as they could have been, and I have a suspicion that that is going to actually change in book 2 because there are some things that happen at the end that leave the well open for character development. The description I just gave you is a very different story to what the end of the book is. There is a lot jam-packed into this. I would say that there is more than 450 pages worth of story in this book. So in that sense, I think it is actually quite worth reading. But the end did feel a bit fever dreamy, and they left it on a pretty hella cliffhanger. So I am super stoked for book 2. It comes out in July, so that's only 2 months away. I need more of Finn. I just need more Finn content. Please give me more Finn content. I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. It was a fun time. I enjoyed listening to it and I wanted to listen to it. So for that reason, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Oh wow, that's all the books I read. I did not read that much in April, in hindsight. Do you know why? Because I decided that I was going to try to upload videos twice a week, and then I didn't do that, and all of my time was taken with filming and editing, and it didn't need to because I didn't upload twice a week anyway. And that is it. That is the books that I read in April. These are the only 2 that I actually physically have, and I only read one of them physically. It was a rough month for reading, April was, but that is all I have to tell you about today. Yeah, biggest revelation of my life, I have grey hair now. I can't move past it. This does not help the impending existential crisis and doom. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you are having a fantastic day or night or whatever time it is where you are, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!